Welcome to High Strangeness, where we ask questions and explore all that is strange and unexpected in our reality.
Welcome to High Strangeness. I'm your host, Tony, and this is a place where we talk about all things strange and unexpected. Today, we're going to have a topic and we're going to talk about something that's strange, but strange in a very good way. And so I'm definitely interested in hearing we've got a great interviewee here today, and it's going to be wonderful. So the first question I have for the audience is, have you ever, or how many of you have ever talked to a mermaid? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, today we're going to come as close as you can because we've got Simm, who is my guest today. And you might find her in mermaid competitions and in other places as a mermaid. So she is a mermaid. Now, Mia lives in Utah and has won in the past, the Miss Petite Nevada mermaid title. She also represented at the Miss Petite USA for water conservation. Did I say that right, Mia?
Yes, you did. But the Wonderful. Mermaid title on the end is just Miss Petite, part of the USA, but I am not representative of the USA. It's just Nevada. Gotcha.
Well, that's still impressive. So,
Thank you.
And so this year, I know that you're going to be competing in Switzerland. Is that right?
That is correct.
At the Merlympics. And we're going to talk about that, everybody. We're going to get to it in just a little bit. I do want to say that I know a lot of people are going to be excited about this. I have two granddaughters that are excited when I told them I was going to be interviewing a mermaid. They're all excited. So they're like, oh, I can't wait, Pop, to hear this.
Oh,
and so
that is so
it's going to be fun. So let me start by asking you, how are you doing, Mia?
I'm doing so well. My feet are not.
From all the work, or?
Yes, sir. The blistering and swelling is like my least favorite part of this whole process, to say the least.
Oh. Is it the flippers?
It is the either socks, neoprene dive socks, or the rubber itself in the fins that we use is very, very abrasive, even though it's one of the smoothest textures we have. Human skin does not do well with constant abrasion and water alongside it. It really makes it a lot more painful.
But your feet got to go through it, right?
Got to go through it.
It's the way it's got to go.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask you this. We are in 2024. I know you've got a big competition coming up. So how is 2024 going so far for you? Have you had a lot of water time, and have you been hitting the pools, and how do you prepare?
So much mental preparation is the very first step, and it is the hardest step with anything involved in sportsmanship. Anything and everything that you do is what determines your self-worth in that sport. And if you're not getting yourself to the pool or to the gym, you're going to destroy yourself from the inside out. So it's that very first mental battle of, I can do it, I just got to get my butt out of bed and go be where I need to be.
That's like a characteristic of a winner right there, right? I mean, if you're going to be successful, you got to get up and make it happen.
Yes, sir.
I agree. Let's start talking a little bit about you. I think what will be neat for everybody, and including the young ones who are going to watch this, is a little bit about your life, what brought this interest about for you, and what sorts of things are you involved in now and as a young person even before this point. Like what made Mia?
So much. I grew up as one out of 5 children. There are 2-year age gaps until the very last child. I am 15 years older than my only brother. So that was a whole lot of a new world of, I have a little sibling and it's a boy and they're crazy. What do I do? But before then, I grew up being raised by both my parents here in Utah, and our trade is mechanics and automotive performance. So I had nothing to do very heavily in this female-based world of pink collar work or pageantry until later in life, because I was constantly being covered in dirt and grime working for my father.
Wow. So you are not only a pageant person, you're also get your arms full of elbow grease doing stuff.
Yes, sir. We did a lot of racing growing up. So I've done motocross, I've done off-road. My dad races Baja. I've been tech crew for all of that. And it's definitely been a big part of who I am because of how much fun I get to have.
Wow, that's amazing. So they're kind of like two different ends of the spectrum in my mind. Anyway.
Same coin, two different sides.
Exactly. A great way to put it. So what did draw you to all of this, to mermaiding? Is it, did you just see it for the first time and go, oh, I like that? Or did you just love water and it naturally, you were exposed to it somehow? Like, how did this come into your life?
This is kind of a D, all of the above. I love the water. I love being outside. I think tropical fish are so fun. I'm in love with snorkeling and just exploring nature. But growing up, I had a problem. I was a gymnast and a cheerleader for a long, long time. And the damage and just my general, I want to say misconnection, but I wasn't put together properly in my feet. I had these bone spurs that anytime they got touched, whacked, or I kicked something, they would sprain my ankle because it's acting like these ligaments are a rope over a blade. It just shredded them over and over again. And that was super painful for the first 15 years of my life. And we didn't know why my feet were always red, swollen, purple, angry, and it hurt to walk. And that made gymnastics hard. That made anything I did, if I got an injury, I was out for an extensive period of time, which killed my self-worth with the training because I felt like I wasn't good enough because I wasn't able to get where I needed to go, even though it was due to injury. So that definitely put a damper on the mental stability I had in athletics.
Wow, I mean, that's important. And I think sometimes athletes, especially when they're young and getting a little bit older, and they have difficulty with either injuries or just chronic pain, sometimes they just give up. And I think the answer is just basic, what's the word I'm looking for? Just pivot, right? You pivoted to something else and you're rocking there as well.
Yes, thank you. That is a good word. And I think that's another thing people need to understand is just because you can't have this one thing does not mean there's not a plethora more of cool things that you can try and attempt and make a career out of. We're in a position in life where AI can do art and they can write mathematical equations and codes, and the human aspect is slowly being taken away. So we're coming up with all these weird things that machinery cannot replace.
Amen. That's true. So I'm thinking of these competitions and stuff, and I'm wondering, to me, you appear to be a performer and an athlete.
Yes, sir.
How do you consider yourself a performer and an athlete?
Yes, I do. The other part of my growing up, or upbringing is a better word, is that I grew up with actors and big Hollywood stuff, and I've been an actor most of my life, so I'm really familiar with screens, camera, talking to crew, and just trying to be a person that can get the job done and get it done quickly. And on the back end of that is costume design, and that was really enticing for me was special effects. So I loved watching Avatar and watching all of these amazing people play with latex, play with silicone, and do full body impressions just to make something completely different. And in my mind, I'm thinking, we made fairies look good. We made people look like sharks. We made people a completely different species. What's it going to take to make these mermaids look so unbelievably real?
Wow. I see something right behind you there too. Is that what is that right there? I'll just let you explain.
That is a giant ball gown. Not of my own design. Cool. I had another one that I switched out for it. I like having some sort of pedestal of cool clothing.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. So let's go this direction for a minute. So I know you're about to compete. We talked about that a second ago. 2024 Swiss Merlympics. Can you first tell us your journey? Like, how did you get to that place where you qualified and you're about ready to compete there, which is a worldwide competition, which is cool. Can you tell us about that?
It is now a worldwide competition. So the Swiss Merlympics have been around for almost 10 years. I think it's either this year or next year. That is the 10-year anniversary that this has been a part of Europe. 2024 is the very first year international athletes have been invited to compete. And I was looking for something super hardcore and athletic after I didn't make it to King and Queen of the Seas. I only made a regional title. I didn't make it super far, and it wasn't athletic. That was more pageantry, and I didn't make it to Miss Mermaid USA because I was kind of on the back end of that generation of mermaids. And I know a lot of those girls, and I am so excited to have them as friends and get to swim with them even on the weekends here, because community is really important to us, and I know that it's kind of an aversion for some people of, meeting people and this is not going to be very fun, which is understandable.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned, so we've talked about or brought up Merlympics, and you just mentioned a couple other, I don't know if they're competitions or organizations. Can you first tell us a little bit, let everybody know, what is Merlympics? Like, what is it? And if somebody were to sit on the stands there and watch this, like, what would they be seeing? And then I'm going to ask you after that about other organizations that may be out there. Let's start with Merlympics.
So the Swiss Merlympics are now an international competition where you have X amount of athletes from mermaiding schools and individual athletes. So these mermaiding schools are a community group, whatever you want to call them, and they have up to 6 athletes. It's 2 in every division, I believe, and it goes by age division. It's not by height or weight like wrestling, and it's not like watching the 200 free at a regular swim meet. It's kind of this whole plethora of freediving skills, photogenics, and general critiquing on flowability or mesmerizing qualities in the water, because you are being watched from the water. You're not being watched from above unless you're on the stands, because these judges are either right on deck with you or often in the water.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. There are 5 events. So we do have a 50-meter sprint, and these are all fully decked out mermaid gear. We are not swimming with our arms in this race. It is all straight supine, streamlined in your tail, waist to toes, you're bound. There is no getting out of that unless you want to. That one's probably the one I'm the most stressed about, just because it's so exhausting. It's really tough on the body, and as nice as swimming is for physical therapy, recovery, or general fitness, when you're pushing yourself to the limits, it puts a really big toll on the rest of your body because it's so full body active. So that's the first event. The second one would be the photo shoot. So you make your outfit, you make whatever design, you present it under the water with multiple photographers, and then they take the pictures, you hold your pose, you hold your buoyancy, and then you're graded on how photogenic you are, and as the 50-meter would be, you're graded on speed. And there is no requirement for turning off the walls in speed. You can do a flip turn, you can do a swim side turn, whatever it is that makes you faster. So that's kind of nice. So the third one would be ecology.
Before you go to 3, the photo shoot or the that part of it, is it half out of the water, half in, all the way under the water?
Fully under the water.
Fully under the water. Okay, pretty cool.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. So yes, the photo shoot, you are supposed to be submerged from your head to your tail. That way it's a prettier picture. A lot of people can get away with these half in, half outs, but because we're in a sports center, we're not in a photo shoot dive pool, it's going to look funky. That would be why.
That makes sense.
Kind of hard to get around that. Number 3 would be the ecology. So we are doing home to the world for taking care of our oceans, waterways, and everything that regular human beings should stand for, because it's something that keeps us alive. Water is life. Without water, there would be no life. Ever. So in this part, they throw all these little things in the pool, whether it be forks, dive rings, or shells. We're supposed to leave natural-based things. So the shells would stay in the bottom of the pool, or rocks. We are to retrieve the waste from the bottom of the pool. It could be about 13 to 15 feet. We swim all the way from one end of the pool. We dive down. We retrieve all that we can. And we come up and down. And I think it's about 1 minute, 30 seconds that we have until they'll give us an air horn and we're to stop. And the amount of waste we collect is what we are graded on.
Oh, wow. And is there more than one mermaid at a time doing this? Or is it one person at a time?
It should be one person at a time. However, they haven't made the whole schedule yet, so we're kind of all waiting for everything to get fully worked out.
Gotcha. So some of these competitions, there might be some variation, and then you find out, and you go, okay, I have to adjust to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
even in pageantry, the day of, they're like, this is the way you walk on stage, and this is how we're doing it, so memorize it, you got 15 minutes. It's kind of that, can you adapt? Because this is going to go fast.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're moving into
So
number 4.
3 so far? Oh, now
That was
we're at
3, so
4.
now
Okay.
this is number 4. We are doing rescue. Mermaids have been on the news a couple times for diver rescue because there are a lot of accidents regarding free divers blacking out or scuba divers having something go wrong. Happens a lot. Most mermaids that are doing rescue are very heavily trained, whether it be PADI, NAUI, or whatever other organization. They are trained to be able to retrieve divers and how to react in a scenario of a blackout or if someone gets stuck. And this is really important for us because we're in equipment that makes it very, very easy for us to get stuck. We are stuck before we even get in the water when we're putting our stuff on.
Yeah.
The human body doesn't know how to react without its legs unless you started without them, right? This is a natural, let's move your legs or your limbs or something. And when you're bound, people don't remember to quick release. So we're trying to also raise awareness of how to get your tail off in under 5 seconds in case something happens, you panic, you change your mind, you're out of your air on your last breath hold, whatever it is. So for this part, we have another mermaid who is either tailless or it's another coach. They sit at the bottom of the pool and you swim 25 meters in one breath, you retrieve them, and then you tow them to the other end of the pool.
Wow. Mm-hmm. In full dress.
Full dress.
You're fully mermaided.
Fully mermaided.
Okay. Wow. Wow.
That's definitely hard.
Yeah. Well, and do you think, well, I'm trying to think, compare the speed you would, if you're swimming just without the fins and stuff like that, is it comparable in speed, or do you lose a lot of speed when you're a mermaid, or do you actually pick up speed with that big fin at the back?
I was meant to be a mermaid. I have tripled my speed in my fins versus without them. I am very, very strong like this. So I don't know how that happened, but here we are.
There you go. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool. As you're describing this, I'm thinking to myself, wow, like, is it harder or not? But it sounds like for you, and maybe some others who are really good at this, that it's in your lane. You've got it.
I've spent most of my life in the water. I'm a huge fan of surfing, swimming, watching scuba, all these things. But moving into number 5. So event number 5 is figures. So these are the labels. Figures are judged on how your duck dive looks, how the figure looks under the water, and how you exit the water. So we're moving into event number 5. Number 5 is figures. In these figures, you're graded on how you enter the water, your duck dive, how you perform the figure, what it looks like fully submerged, and what your exit of the water looks like. Now, this isn't getting up on the pool ledge. It's just how your face looks when you break the surface tension of the water. When you're duck diving, it's this motion of the body that makes your head really heavy. So it plunges you really far down in the water really quickly with little to no energy. So how far down can you get to be comfortably buoyant? And then you perform the figure, whether it be a barrel roll, a front pike, or a back flip, or some type of floating on your back undulation is what they call it, and that's this motion that you're doing with your body. And then you perform the figure, either exhaling while you go or not. It kind of depends on how much water is going up your nose. And then coming out. So can you come out of the water without snot rocketing back into the pool while everyone's watching you?
Right? That's pretty cool. When you were talking about, is it called undulating?
Yes.
Is that what you said? To me, every time I see somebody, I don't see a lot of people do it, but the thing is, like, I've seen a couple swimmers in some competition where they do that coming off the wall, and I think it's the coolest thing. And each time I see that, I think, it's like a mermaid.
Exactly.
And you guys do it all the time.
So that stroke is labeled as the dolphin stroke or dolphin kick, and swimmers are more limited to it than we are because we are a different category of swim. They only have, I think it's 12 meters before they have to come up. They cannot continue dolphin kicking. So we can do it all we want. We just can't use our arms. They can't do it, but they can do their arms.
Oh, wow. So you're swimming without your arms, too?
Yes.
Wow. Like, this seems really hard.
It definitely is.
Oh, my gosh. Like, if I were in the water, I'd go bloop, 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 bloop. I totally think just, I need everything to stay up. But, okay, so as I'm hearing you describe some of these events and these moves and different things you're doing, I'm thinking to myself, this would kill somebody who's not in shape, right? Who's not ready for it. How do you train for this? Like, do you have a set regimen, or are you just fit enough that you're good with it? Like, how do you approach it, knowing this thing's coming up here in May, and you're thinking, I need to be, conditioned for this?
You do. Conditioning is a really big part of it. You have the self-discipline that says, I need to do it because I'm going to lose my mind if I tell myself I did it when I didn't do it, and I just lied to everybody and myself. When you're getting ready for this sort of thing, the best thing is to be in the water. Nothing's going to beat being in the water. Nothing's going to beat training in actual equipment. Nothing's going to beat training with weights, right? When you're weightlifting, you're running, you're doing all this cardio. But being in the water is so heavy in a sense that this fight or flight mechanism in your body changes. And having water splash up into your face and you know whether to breathe through your mouth or your nose, you have to learn which one to pick because the body's always going to go through the mouth. You have to say, hey, this is how I keep myself safe. This is how I do it because this can kill someone. Anyone can drown. No one is drown proof. That's never going to be a possibility as human beings because we are not aquatic beings.
Yeah. Wow. So, people, you thought being a mermaid was just being pretty. No. This is very athletic.
It is, so and I like it that way for sure. I've definitely had a lot of fun in pageantry and doing all of the, being on the stage, being in the movies, doing the commercials, but something that is so gritty and hardworking never can be replaced in my body here. When I'm working out, I'm spending a lot of time in the pool, and I'm either doing with fins, without fins, or adding a severe amount of drag to my body. So I'm letting my hair down. I'm using my tail skin while having it sewn open so that it makes me a lot heavier. I'm using more heavy accessories than I normally would. That way my body knows I can relax and do this right because I'm not going to have this weight on me. It's just making me stronger. I do a lot of temperature training too, so I'm in the sauna for could be 180 degrees for 20 minutes, then I go swim, and then I sit in the hot tub for another 20 minutes. So it's these long increments of very, very high intensity on my heart. Yeah.
Right, so you're pushing yourself in every way.
Yes, sir.
Not just with that, not just moving in the water, but you're physically doing something to yourself, hot, cold, hot again. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, is this do you have an off season and a on season? Meaning, in a lot of sports, you have a very different style of training on the off season than you do for preseason. So I was a football coach for a while, and we did very different types of things prior to the season, and then on the off season, 6 months later, it's all heavy, slower pace, build muscle. Mm-hmm. Is there something like that you do too, or is it kind of the same training all along?
I'm still trying to figure out how that's going to work for me, because for men, that's a great way to follow this cycle. But for female athletes, it's like good luck. I don't know. We have to deal with hormonal cycles. We have to deal with when our body is even capable of building muscle, how hard it is to either gain weight or lose weight. We have all of these indicators that say yes or no, and we have no control.
Good point. And maybe even too much muscle is not good for what you're doing. A lot of times getting too too muscular is bad for athletics too. So yeah, you're trying to find the balance, it sounds like.
Exactly. And muscle means density. Density means you sink. So that's great for like good buoyancy, but if I'm always chugging at the bottom of the pool, it's kind of hard.
Good point. Okay, and so are you doing, let's say, these next couple months, are you doing three times a week or every day of the week?
About 15 hours a week.
Wow. That's pretty intense.
I try
But
to keep it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but that's it, right? That's the cost of performing at a high level.
It is. And I think what a lot of people assume about mermaiding is that it's supposed to be this silly, pretty, fun, very elegant, supportive system, but it's the nitty-gritty athletics. I have, a lot of other people that I'm going up against that are a lot bigger than me, that are a lot stronger than me, and I have to have that mentality of, if I'm going to do this right, I got to do it the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is why I love this interview so much, because one, I'm learning a lot, which I love, always love that. But people are going to be able to understand this for more than just the one aspect that they see, Like the pictures that we're showing of you, and, it's very pretty, very pageant, like a pageant type thing, some of them here. And it's not just about that. It's about a whole nother side. So if you're really competitive, this is for you too, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. If this is something you like swimming or you've had an injury, it's a great way to go, but it is a hard road. So if you're willing to put it in, then please give it a shot, because it can make a huge difference in your life. Not only in physical performance, but mental performance. I've been diagnosed with depression and generalized anxiety disorder. This has leveled me out more than any medication I've ever taken.
That's a great point.
And it's an incredible feeling, because I don't deal with it as much. And I'm thinking, am I crazy or am I getting better? But I'm in that phase of I'm getting better and I feel better because I'm working towards something that makes me so, so happy.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to hear that, because you're finding solutions that are just making you feel at the top there. And that's great. We talked about Merlympics. And I'm curious, like, are there other organizations out there too that are pageant or competitive? That's number one. And number two, if there's somebody, because this episode can go anywhere, right? Anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. And so if somebody's interested, how do they get involved? So let's start with the different types of organizations out there. Are there a bunch? I don't know.
There are in my world, just because I've met and known so many people previously, or am still continuing to network. Now, finding these things comes mostly through social media or Google itself. That's how I started looking into special effects, as we talked about before, when I'm looking at how are they going to do this? How does silicone work? What kind of degree in chemistry do I need to understand this? And finding the one that's meant for you is probably the first and most important step, because pageantry is very, very different than athletics. And I like both just because it's two sides of the coin thing. It's that really heavy and dramatic dynamic that I like. Now, there are other girls who are very heavily internal activist. I want to do this way. I have a lot of friends who are autism acceptance, who are EDS awareness and all of these things with just physical ailments, or it's also conservation, and this is their platform for pageantry. Now, that is not as an athletic based thing, because that athletic part is just the modeling part for the next up age division. So that's like 30s to 40s. They get to do the fitness. We don't get to do that. So that is if you're an older person, you do get to do that. But if you're young, you have to wait and go through the swimwear or the evening wear until you can make it that far. Now, mermaid pageantry is very new. Miss Mermaid USA was the first and currently one of the only ones in the US that does mermaid-based pageantry. And then King and Queen of the Seas are merged with Miss Mermaid USA. And these are also more half athletic, half pageantry, because you're still doing the evening wear, you're still doing the photo shoot, you're still being that pretty dolled up version, but you're also getting in the pool and swimming for as long as you can. You're showcasing your skills, your underwater dance skills.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That's way more. There's so many more levels of this
Yes.
than I was thinking, and that's what's so cool about it. So really, there's a place for a lot of, well, maybe everybody to find their niche, and their,
Absolutely.
this one focuses here. That's pretty cool. You said gown. No, what was it?
Evening wear?
Evening wear, yeah. So, what can you describe that a little bit? Like, what does that involve?
So it's tough, kind of like this. This is definitely like quince, big ball gown, super pretty. When it comes to evening wear, this is your most elegant self. So this is you as if you were having dinner with Marilyn Monroe, what would you wear kind of a thing, because you have to be that very, I feel good and I look good, because confidence talks more than makeup or dresses, always. So if you can't get yourself to that mental status first, it doesn't matter what dress you wear.
Good point. Okay, now I'm seeing that. I'm glad you showed me and you explained that, because I was trying to think, well, what would that be? So let's back up just a little bit. So you've done this through your teenage years, and now you're in your early 20s, right? Life is busy. You're at that age, right, where there's like work and maybe college and, who knows. And then you have this competitive avenue with all the workouts and preparing that you need to do. How do you find balance with all of this in your life?
It's funny when people ask me about balance, because balance is fake. There is only sacrifice. There will only ever be sacrifice. You have to pick. Am I going to sleep more? Am I going to hang out with friends more? Am I going to go clubbing? Am I going to skip on the alcohol? Am I going to eat more? Am I going to prep my meals in advance? What can you do to consolidate your current routine while also maintaining everything else that you have to do to stay alive?
You know what? That honesty right there is important, because too many people sugarcoat stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're saying no. If you want to be successful, it's going to cost. That honesty is important. People, you heard that, right? There's no pretending here.
Absolutely.
What were some of the biggest challenges you've had to face in preparation for any of these competitions, and how did you overcome it?
Again, the mental aspect of, can I do it? Am I good enough? Am I going to make myself worthy? Because that self-doubt is going to yell at you more than actually losing the competition. That's going to yell at you more than your coaches or anyone else you're working with, because it is so loud and right in your face. And learning how to accept that what I am doing is a lot, and I'm going to make it good enough even if it isn't right now. And I've been struggling to understand the phrase of hope. Why would someone hope for something? That's like taking your hands off the wheel and hoping that it'll steer, right? This whole idea of, why can't I just work until my feet bleed? Why can't I work until I'm going to get everything done the way I want it to? And there are a lot of things that are out of your control, which is that mental of, sometimes it is what it is, and it's going to get away from you, and I don't feel like I'm good enough, and it's going to run away with, what if someone else proves my theory?
That's pretty important to share that way, because, I've heard it said somewhere, somebody said, don't hope, do, right? Don't hope, do it. Can't remember where I heard that from, but there's so much truth to that, and it kind of goes along with just what you said, which is, it's up to you. And this is comparable and is an individual sport, really, because like any person who competes as a runner or a weightlifter or something competitively as an individual, they win or fail right here first, right? And it sounds like that's what you're saying. That's how you stay on that competitive edge and preparing the way you need to prepare.
Absolutely.
Powerful.
And,
Powerful.
That don't hope, do. Sometimes after you've done all you can do, then you're left over with hope. And that is going to happen.
That's a good point.
The day I land in Switzerland, or the 2 days rest that I have, because there is nothing I can do at that point.
That's a great point. It reminds me, so I have one of my sons played football, and he used to, early on, he'd get a little stressed before a big game. And I'd say, we just spent all season practicing hard. Did you practice well? Yes, I did, Dad. I said, then react now. It's time to just react. Mm-hmm. So it reminds me of that very same thing. It's such a true principle to win.
Exactly.
So I love that. Can you share with the audience and me a memorable moment that you had in either a competition or somebody you met or in preparing anything? Like, what stands out in your mind when you think of mermaiding?
Oh, this makes me want to cry. It was the very first time I started making mermaid-based friends. So I started getting my own community of people who wanted to go swimming with me, who wanted to hang out with me. That was a whole new world of, oh my gosh, we have something so deeply in common that now we get to have this whole friendship based off of something that we love so, so much.
That is great. And so and I guess you can have that experience often and over, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Because it is, yeah. That is really good. I was going to ask you, how do you prepare mentally and physically? But you've explained all that, so that is great. I'm going to ask you, what motivates you to continue? Because you've had a fair bit of success. Now, I know, you're getting ready to go to a very big competition here pretty quick. But a couple years from now, do you see that will you still be motivated and excited about this? I mean, I guess you don't know till you're there, but what do you think? Is it just something that you're going, look, there's so much about this that I enjoy, that the competitions are only part of it?
I would think so, yeah. The competitions are just one segment of it for me. Because I grew up doing the acting and the modeling, I've loved doing fantasy shoots and doing all of these cool themed events that are also surrounding mermaid stuff. And it's been really fun exploring all of that with things like light painting or LED costuming, and still moving to that next level. I think my brain always wants to say, keep progressing because there's so much more to know. How could we get bored of this? Because there are so many cool things.
Yeah. Good point. I know earlier in our conversation, you had mentioned one of the reasons why you kind of pivoted was some chronic injuries or pain you were having in your feet and stuff like that from gymnastics and stuff. In mermaiding, any injuries, any setbacks physically there, or are you able to gauge that differently to handle that?
It is a different way to gauge for sure, because I'm not relying on my feet now. My feet are at the tail end, literally, of what I'm doing, because now I can work on my core and my back. I'd also suffered several injuries from off-road racing wrecks, so I've definitely kind of been through the ringer a little bit. And it put me in a position where my back was dealing with a lot of damage. I have an unnamed spinal and sciatic nerve damage disorder. So I have misfires going off in my body of when I hurt and when I don't. And this doesn't affect me in the water. If I were to tumble again, or if I were to weightlift more than I'm doing so now, my body would recognize, this is getting really hard and this hurts a lot more. But because the water takes enough strain off my spine and the rest of my body, it's definitely made it a lot better.
That's really interesting and a good point, because people do rehab in water, so it makes a lot of sense. So you feel better in the water in general.
I do. Water is the most healing thing we have. We can't live without it, but we can't live in it. And it's also a sacrifice of setting up how to consume it. What's the water quality that I'm doing? Am I staying hydrated enough that I can even get in the pool today? Because the more you swim and the less you drink water, the harder it is to train.
Right. I feel like we've learned here a lot about just the ins and outs of how to be a mermaid. I want to talk a minute about your website. You've got a cool website with a lot of things on there, and also things that you do that people can reach out and either hire you or pull you into some activity. Can you talk to us about your website? Maybe even, what are some of the things on there? I'll have something here on the screen that people can look at, but how can people tie in to what you're doing?
I love it when people ask me for literal manual labor help. I don't know why I'm so weird, but I got to attend a planting party for Utah Lake. So I got to go plant new native species and get rid of the phragmites. That's a new word I learned. It's those really pretty ferns that are covering the edges of the lake. So we learned about the treatment of those and how to bring back old native species of Utah Lake. So we're digging in the mud, we're splashing, hacking away with all our tools, things like that. So my environmental basis is put me to work. I'm here to work. I want to go do your service project. I want to help your scouts get their badges. I want to help your young women or any other religious check-off point kind of thing get what they want to do, because those projects are really important to them and they're really important to me because it's such a special development of what that person might do next in their life.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think here you've got birthday parties, library storytelling, and you kind of talked about environmental educational things. Talk about if somebody were to hire you for a birthday party or a library or a storytelling thing,
Oh, absolutely.
What can they expect if they do that?
I have a lot of different costuming. So the first thing, if you are thinking about hiring me, pick the version of me that you want. That way I can plan accordingly. Sometimes kids have a favorite color and then a mermaid shows up in that color, like best day ever. And then that would be set up. We would talk about our dates, and then I love singing, dancing, playing lots of games with kids because you can be so dynamic and you'll keep the kids going for hours and hours just having so much fun, because this really is an important experience. It's not exactly like going to Disneyland, but it's such a special gift of someone to connect to, someone who wants to take care of them, because that's our job. Another part of what I do is trying to build our community back. That's why I'm so adamant on the environmental stuff. That's why I like doing volunteer work, because I'm not all about the money. I'm not all about being booked. I really don't care. I do have a day job. I work as a surgical assistant. I'm fine. I like doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And building that up takes a lot, and it takes a lot of wanting more for what you're doing, because I am not the future. My sisters aren't the future. It's the people after us.
That's great. I want to ask you about, I'm trying to keep in mind the audiences from every age. So we know that this is a performance, a pageantry, and there's also different ways that people get together at the younger ages. Are there people that are in their 30s and 40s or older who do this as well at some level?
Absolutely. I'm actually one of the youngest people in my group. Fun fact.
Wow.
When it comes to the younger girls mermaiding, that's very introductory. They're not looking to do it at this level yet because they're trying to figure it out. Swimming in a monofin, that would be one of these, is a very difficult feat because it's an extension of your body that is not as easily manipulated as it would be holding a ski pole, because you have all of this dexterity in your hands, but now you have to learn and understand it with your feet. So these younger girls are just learning to play. They're learning to explore themselves. How do they want to play this character? What do they know about becoming the characteristics that they're thinking of? And then you have kind of my division where we're moving into the more professional era of, do we want to do pageantry? Do we want to do athletics? And then everyone above us is either already settled in the professional world or they're very heavily recreational. And then you have the people here and there who are just models, or they do stuff for a specific acting job, whatever it is.
Interesting. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, folks, you can get involved at any age, right? It's funny because I know somebody here in my neighborhood is a friend. It's a lady. She's about my age, and she just started learning piano, like in the last year or two. Isn't that awesome? Like, you just decide in your 50s that you're like, you know what? I want to do something different. People could do mermaiding at 30 and 40, right?
Oh,
Or
absolutely.
who knows? Yeah. This is awesome.
It's never
See,
too late.
You get water time, you get social time, and then you can take it wherever you want. That's pretty cool.
Absolutely. There's a lot of crafting too, because a lot of these older women that we get in, they're like, I love paper crafts or I love fashion. And then they've tied it into this whole setup of, oh my gosh, mermaid fantasy, right? And it makes it super easy as an in to what you want to do.
Well, I think before I move on to a couple last questions that I have, I want to ask you about your equipment. So your fin and your attire in general. Do you purchase that, or do you make it, or where does it come from?
A lot of us do make our own stuff. I love crafting. It's probably my favorite pastime ever. I've done this one. So this is my current monofin that I use for competition. This is the most comfortable on my feet. And I made this fabric part. So these are called tail skins. So anything that is not the actual fin itself is considered a skin.
Okay.
Another example would be this guy. So this is a full body. This one would be a print. I purchased this one. I think this is Fin Fun and the fin inside as well. So you can purchase these or you can make them. But when it comes to monofins, I would plan on purchasing one just because there are probably 10 plus companies now that make really good quality fins. And it also depends on your strength level because you have anything from plastic to neoprene wraparound on your plastic to full silicone to carbon fiber and fiberglass. So there are a lot of levels of your skill level and what you want to do with your equipment.
That's a lot. Yeah, and somebody new coming in, how do they know what to pick, right? So they probably want to purchase it, what they can, rather than try to figure it out first, right?
Yes, that's what YouTube University is for. That's where I got a lot of what I learned how to do, but I do have a background in fashion and costume design, so it did make it a lot easier.
That's true.
We do everything from swim tops to accessories, so this is also another headdress that I have. It's flowers and zip ties.
Nice.
It doesn't have
and
to
it
be
looks pretty though.
anything fancy. Thank you. So that's what these zip ties are for, and it's just strapped onto a headband. And these are water resistant, so I do all of my stuff based on how it'll perform and act in the water because I want it to always be uniform. I don't want something flopping around.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Wow, pretty cool. All right, I'm glad you answered that question because as you're talking about stuff, I have some questions and then another one pops up. And
Oh,
then
absolutely. Keep asking.
So I do have two questions here that are about advice.
Okay.
So the first one is going to be, what advice would you give to a parent who would like to help their child participate in something like this? What would they do? What's their path?
I love discussing safety with parents. That is my number one feat in anything that I do, whether it be talking about gymnastics or a new sport or general dentistry even, right? Because I deal with a lot of advisory there is learn what your child's current skill levels are very first. Find out how comfortable are they in the water. If they're not, start them on swim lessons. If they're a baby, start them on infant swim lessons. I am a huge advocate for preventative care in children because drowning is preventable, but it's also one of the number one causes of death in children 4 and under, right? And then from 4 to 14, it's number 2. That's incredibly high, and it's something that can be dealt with very easily. So this is, if you have a pool at home, is your pool gated? Do you have boundaries with your child when they're allowed to wear their tail and when not to? I would also suggest if you don't know how to teach them anything and you don't know, find someone you do know, Google it, go on YouTube, find videos on how to start safely. And they're everywhere. So this is how to put your fin on and take it off. I teach this before I even put my kids in the water. I do not let a child under 12 do it without my supervision and multiple lifeguards because we as mermaids, when we're performing, we can't be that lifeguard. Same thing when we're instructing.
Wow.
Very important.
No, that's good. That's definitely good. Yeah, because you can't just jump into this without thinking some of this through.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, somebody can get hurt. Yeah.
And then step 2 as a parent is understanding toys versus actual equipment. Because there is a separation here, and it's a very fine line. Professional level mermaids do use stuff like fin fun, and it's not a damper on that. It's just not designed for strength and performance. That would be the level of equipment. And it is hard for children to understand that it technically is a toy, but it still needs to be treated as a piece of equipment. So it needs to be taken care of. It needs to be put away where it goes, things like that, because you want it to last a long time too if you do put that money into it. Toy or not, it's never cheap.
Right. That's a good point. And a lot of kids, they just throw stuff. It doesn't, you have to value some of these things. And using it to either prepare to compete or just even to learn how to use it in a pool or something, those kids should value that because it's their equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I know that's also a new habit of discipline that's hard for children to understand, but the earlier you settle it into them, the more respect they can have for you as a parent and for their teachers and other mentors, because everything you do in life is based off of what you're willing to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So the second advice I was going to ask you is, what would you tell a young person? Like, so maybe a young person is seeing this, or their friend tells them about this. And, you know, so their mother maybe or father isn't involved at this point, but it's just younger. What would you tell them? How should they proceed to find out more about it or to approach some way to do this?
Absolutely. Same thing with parents is learning and understanding proper research. Mermaids like me, we post about water safety and these equipments all the time because that shouldn't be something you have to pay for. Staying alive isn't something you should have to pay for, especially when it comes to yourself or a child. These are really important standards that cannot go overlooked.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
You can get involved on groups on Facebook and you can respond to a question, ask a question, be willing, and don't be embarrassed to ask questions because the longer you wait, the harder it is to get an answer that will work for you.
Good point. Are there groups right here in Utah and Salt Lake County or Utah County that people can link up to, and or should they reach out to you and say, "Hey, I want to do it. Where do I go?"
Absolutely reach out to me. I'm always willing. It is a little bit more difficult to understand how pods work. The word pod is used as an exclusivity, and a lot of people get upset about that. So if that's not something you're looking for, it's fine. Just be willing and understanding and open to some people will split off, and you're not going to have this huge group of people that you're always going to see because people are going to pick different personalities that they kind of go off best with. And that's okay. You're not going to have the same 50 people you swim with. So that would be a first step is just know that. I swim at the Springville Rec Center, the Clyde Rec Center, every Saturday for Mermaid Hour. This is one of the only pools in Utah publicly that allows mermaid tails because they are seen as a safety hazard. And that's super frustrating to us because we work so hard to make sure that it's not a risk.
Yeah. So that's cool. So there's a mermaid hour, huh?
There is, and
that's cool.
It really goes until the pool closes. We're there from 5 p.m. to like 9 or 10, and we're just swimming and swimming. We do videos together. We'll do lip syncs underwater. We do a lot of underwater footage and dancing and learning tricks with each other because tricks in pairs look really cool and all these things. It's a lot more than gathering content. It's also improving your skills as a mermaid alongside other people.
Okay, people, so if you want to give it a try and you're in Utah County, Mia, reach out. If you're in Salt Lake County or somewhere else, still reach out to Mia because she probably can point you to somebody, right? Awesome. All right, Mia, what are your future goals and aspirations, either in this area or just life in general? What does your future look like?
Starting with mermaiding, I still like the exploration article of, do I really want to pursue being an athlete? Is this something that truly resonates with me? Or am I going to back up to pageantry again? Because I'm not sure, and I love it all. And I definitely want to keep going. This is not something I just want to stop. I do know that.
Nice.
I do also know that I want to start designing products based for mermaids. I can be working on some super secret carbon fiber construction for monofins in that area because the racing and performance has become very enticing to me. How can I make it better, faster, stronger? What can I contribute to other people? And then
That's cool.
Merlympic wise, I definitely want to give it my all. That is my first and foremost goal. My second is know that I did my best and accept that. And I know it's going to be really frustrating if things don't go the way I planned or I don't get the score I want. And then travel wise, with the Swiss Merlympics, I have a triple whammy of countries.
Yeah.
So I'm hitting Switzerland for the first about 5-6 days, and then I'm in Japan for a week and a half, and then I'm in Mexico back to back.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I want to enjoy my time traveling because there are so many places to see and enjoy and people to meet.
So Switzerland is mermaiding. The other locations are fun.
For fun, Japan is definitely a content thing for mermaiding. I want to do stuff on Okinawa Beach and see all these amazing shrines and other things that are just so cool to come and look at.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. It's awesome that you're going to go out and be all these different places and doing it in a way that you love and competing in a way that you love. That's awesome. Now, before we start to wrap up, I want to ask, is there anything that you would like to share with people just about this whole space of mermaiding? I just maybe didn't think to ask a question that you're going, people need to know this, you know?
I think that people should treat it as how they want to be treated. If you want to be a recreational mermaid, then you are going to treat it that way. You're going to make friends in this space and you're going to pick and choose those people. Or if you're going professional and you just want to keep some relationships as business, then keep it solely business. You don't have to be friends with every single person you meet. You can keep things in a strictly uniform manner, and it's going to keep a lot of unneeded stress in your life if you're always saying yes to things, or you're doing events that you know you're not getting paid for, or if you know that you're not going to have a good time at. It can make it heavier. So pick and choose there, and it will help you. And I think that being open and willing to give and take conversation that progresses your group. So if someone is always missing out and you really want them around, reach out to them, tell them that you miss them, because this whole community is supposed to be a community.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. As we get towards the end here, I really appreciate you sitting here and giving us some time. And folks, we had technical difficulty for a while before this. So Mia was a sport to hang out with me so that we could get this worked out. So thank you. It was well worth it for sure.
Yes.
How can people follow you and to see what you're doing, maybe even support you if they want to? Like how can they connect and follow you?
You can find me a lot of places. You can find me on my website. That's miabiliaentertainmentstudios.com. You can find me on Instagram. I'm the Provo Mermaid on Instagram. I'm the Provo Mermaid on Facebook. And I am the Provo Mermaid on YouTube. It's everywhere. I also have stuff on Pinterest. And I also have a lot of sensory things for kids with either sensory disorders or autism. That way they still feel included too, because contact with a mermaid can be a lot of overwhelming feelings for them some days, so I still want to make sure that every child is always involved. And then
Awesome.
Support-wise, I have a Venmo if you want to help contribute to my funds or getting my equipment stored properly under the plane, because I fear that they're going to break it. You can Venmo me. And that's
Good
at
point.
Mia-Simm, and you'll see a big blue picture. It's my old profile picture from Instagram, but it's a silhouette of me in my mermaid tail on Utah Lake.
Well, Mia, if you send me that picture, I'll make sure I get it on here towards the end of the episode so people can see it and just snap real quick if they want to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, listen, this has been a lot of fun, and I want to tell you, good luck, right? Because this episode will probably launch a little bit after Mia does her competition. But right now we are in the very end of April, and I want to say next month you're going to be out there. Best of luck to you. and I'm so excited for you. I hope you take it all, and I'm interested in hearing how you did, and then we'll give people an update down the road.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. We dealt with this technical thing for 45 minutes, everyone.
I know, it was crazy. You were a good sport. So, but I'm glad, because I really wanted to get through an interview and just learn about this stuff. It literally was the first time I've ever heard of it when you did your Fox 13 piece a month or so back. So I was like, I was catching it at the end as I was leaving the room, and I said, wait, what is that? So I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Mia, go get them. It's going to be awesome.
Sir, yes, sir.
And for all you people out there, I'm just going to end by saying, remember, there's a lot of strange and unexpected out there. Keep your eyes, ears, and minds open. And until next time, stay safe. See ya.
Thank you for listening to High Strangeness. This was a glance at some of the strange that exists in our reality.